Jokic with a three. Sticks it. Wow.
7-0 personal run here by Luka.
K&C Masterpiece right here on 105.3 The Fan.
K&C Masterpiece show.
No, I'm not going to say that. And we got some basketball stuff to chop up here, including who are the top 10 players. If you got some people that you think are really going to blow up in the NBA this year, I'd be glad to hear that as well. But we've gone through the top 100. We are now to the top 10. There's been 3 Mavericks thus far. Luka will be in the top 10.
Well, yeah, we know that.
Yeah, we discussed that yesterday.
Yes.
He said
We pay
he thought
attention
he's
to the
number
show.
2.
Just resetting.
Yeah.
Jokic, you had 1.
Do you want to start at the top?
Yeah, because then it won't be a process of elimination.
True. Who do you think is number 1?
I think
Jokic.
Jokic.
Jokic is, in fact.
He's won 3 of the last 4 MVPs.
No more. That is a good
I would
point.
have won another one, but Kendrick Perkins put it into that.
Yeah, he did.
Why?
Because he's white. Jokic, that is. 2. I mean, look, you go back and listen to what he said. He did point out, he was like, all
JJ
3.
Redick called him out on it.
Yeah, all 3 of these outliers are white. What do they have in common? All right, who's the second?
Luka!
You sure?
Absolutely.
You know what? Here's what I'm going to do.
I think
I'm
going to
go off the board here, and I'm going to say they're going to go with Shea. I have not seen this, and I don't agree with it, and I think he is a top 5 player, but I think he got so much hype last year, and he was great in the playoffs. He was better than I thought.
But who beat him?
I would lean towards Luka did. No, you're right, and Luka beat Anthony Edwards. I look at it, and I would still lean towards an overall player, but he has to stay a little bit more healthy. I would lean towards Giannis.
Okay.
But I think this one, if I had to make my list, I would put Giannis 2 and Luka 3. I think on this ESPN list, is it ESPN?
Yes.
Without looking at it, I think they might go Shea here.
Luka is, in fact, second on the list.
How many Luka haters like Ryan Drees, I love you, buddy, are mad at this and say this is a joke? Like, there's the Luka haters don't even believe he's like a top 10 player. Like Stephen A. Smith, I don't know if he'd have him in the top 5. I know he wouldn't have him in the top 5. It's just a matter of would he put him at 6 or would he put him at 11?
Everybody who covers the NBA agrees. Well, most everyone seems to agree that he's a top 5 player and has been that way for at least a few years, even if you disagree with like the first team All NBA. Then it goes Giannis in third, then Shea is fourth. So y'all had...
Do you think there's a separation? Those 4 separate themselves from the next 6?
I do.
Okay. Like a tier almost.
Yes, absolutely.
It's interesting because that feels like it's a changing of the guard now. Doesn't it feel like
because LeBron, Steph, KD are all not in that group.
Okay, so did they bump them down further?
Well, they're not number 5 either, and this is why I think it's a tiered system for sure. Because number 5 is Jason Tatum. Look, I like Jason Tatum.
Giving him credit for a championship,
but I think that Shea, Giannis, Luka, and Jokic are on a different level.
I'm with you. That's why I said I think that's a tier. And then we get to a little bit where we know there's 4 guys. How are they going to rank them? And now we know there's 6 guys, and how are they going to rank them?
So as a player on the court, you think that Jason Tatum is in a different group than those 4?
I agree. And I agree about all the rest of them.
What about intrigue off the court?
I mean, you told me he's super boring.
I do think he's super boring, but I think people are so invested in Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
And he's not good enough. No matter what he does, it's not good enough.
This isn't fair because they play different positions and they're different players to their team. If I take Jokic and put him on the Celtics last year, they win the championship. Same thing with Luka, same thing with Shea, same thing with Giannis. I think the Celtics win the championship if I take Tatum off the team and add one of those 4 guys.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm going to take Tatum and put him on the Nuggets. Don't they drop off pretty significantly?
Yeah, he's not there yet.
And you don't think they make the finals if he's with the Mavs,
I don't think the Mavs make the finals if he's with... Right, so if I start replacing Tatum and put him on Oklahoma City, I put him on Dallas, I put him on Denver, I put him on Milwaukee, I'm not sure if they go any further or as far with Jason Tatum. And that's the tier where I have those 4 guys going to the Celtics, and they all still win the championship.
Yeah.
By the way, somebody asked where Bronny is on this list. He unfortunately did not make the top 100, but we'll get to him in just a minute.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum's 5, Steph is 6, LeBron 7, Joel Embiid is 8. I will say this. Joel Embiid is the one player I think on this list that is the most likely to be able to crack back into the top 4. It's just injuries have just really just dropped him on the list. He's an awesome player when he's out there. He's unbelievable, but he can't stay healthy, and that's why I think even at 8, I think is probably too high for the year to come.
I would say at this point, the way that they Wembied him to 11, and even Lively up to 56 yesterday.
Yeah.
I do not think right now, if you're going to get to 9 and this is the person, or 10, it's going to be him. I don't think this is fair at all at Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
Wasn't he better if you look at LeBron, Curry, Embiid? Wouldn't you say maybe Anthony Edwards was better than them and going to be better?
Cracking the top 10 is a big deal for Edwards. I don't know if he was on it last year, but I feel like cracking the top 10 is a big deal. The other part is I still think there's a maturity that people are asking of Anthony Edwards to go beyond.
I'm with you, but they put Wemby at 11 for winning 24 games last year, or whatever it was.
It is interesting because KD is 9 and Anthony Edwards is 10, and you're right. He cracks the top 10, but last year he was 13.
Okay.
That feels like that undervalues the jump he made from the season before to this past season.
If they're going to treat him this way, which is fine, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, then Wemby can't get into the top 10 next year unless he makes it to like the second round of the playoffs. And heck, me and my son were going over the West, which is for another segment. And he's like, I think the Spurs are going to make like the 7 through 10. And then we start going through it, and it's like, there's no, almost, I won't say there is no chance. There's almost no chance when you look at how deep the West is that San Antonio can make the leap into 9th or 10th place.
From the 469, Anthony Edwards should be at 5. By the way, that's how I put it yesterday. I had Jokic, Luka, Shea, Giannis, and then Anthony Edwards at 5. But on the ESPN list, he is only at number 10. Are there any particular players that you think are like primed to make maybe a big jump? And maybe not even somebody like, they don't have to necessarily be on the list. But another person I thought of is, again, going back to Jalen Williams with the Jalen with an E. Yes, with Oklahoma City.
All right.
I think he has the possibility to take another jump.
All right, so this is scary because I thought of 2 players.
Are they both Oklahoma City?
Chet.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think there's still a lot of growth there. I know like weight-wise and everything, but I still think like his game is scary if he stays healthy, how good he can get. And you have Shea, and you just mentioned Jalen Williams. And then the other one who I think can make a big leap as long as he keeps his guns in his pocket and stays healthy is Ja Morant.
Yeah, right. I was going to say Ja.
Because when you start looking at the West, and we're not even considering Memphis as a contender, we have to remember 2 years ago when Ja was healthy, how good they were. And so I look at Ja Morant. If he can stay healthy for approximately 70 games and not get into trouble off the court, I think Ja Morant can jump into the top. It would be close to top 10, but I think top 15 for sure. And where was Ja Morant?
He was 20.
20. I think he can push for a top 10 player if he's completely healthy.
Somebody brought this up, and it is, I am interested by this. De'Aaron Fox. The reason why, kind of going off the Spurs logic you were using a minute ago, I went with Halliburton.
I was going to say Halliburton, too.
Okay, because he is higher up in the list. He's 16, and I think Fox was 26. I just think I see a clearer path for Halliburton to potentially get back to where he was last year.
Can I give you another player that could crack the top 10?
Chet Holmgren.
Well, we did.
Sorry.
How about this? Because you mentioned him yesterday. I think you had him at 25. Not you, but the list is Paolo Banchero.
Paolo Banchero is 24. Kyrie is 25.
Okay, he could be a cracking a top 10 guy.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And that team seems like they have the upward momentum that you would want as a franchise with a whole bunch of young players. And by the way, for the people who are upset, and actually there are a lot of people who are upset that Anthony Edwards is not in the top 5.
Yeah.
That's ESPN's call. I put him at 5, and they were like, "No, that opinion is stupid."
I thought being at 10 was too low too, but it does get really tough.
What about Brandon Miller? Does he have that?
Okay,
because he's low, right? You said him.
Brandon Miller. I actually want to talk about something from a Yahoo article, and then I'll check where I don't remember where he is in the rankings.
Okay.
Brandon Miller was the top player listed by Yahoo in terms of. I know it's a different thing.
He had a solid rookie year.
In terms of somebody who could really make a big jump. And I know he got kind of maybe lost in the shuffle because he wasn't Wemby and he wasn't as loud as Scoot in terms of like actual talking. But Brandon Miller is a really intriguing one. He averaged about almost 15 points or maybe 15 points last year.
He's just stuck in Charlotte. Is that a problem?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be tough because they're a horrible team, but he will get to shine there.
That is true. But I think Brandon Miller's a really savvy
Brandon Miller is the guy that Charlotte is going to try to build their franchise around and hope that he becomes a top 20 player in the league.
Yes.
We know that.
Yes.
Here's a team that I'm very confused on, but I do think they're a scary team to make noise in the West. I just don't know who to pick as their best player, and that's the Houston Rockets. Is it Sengun, who they played? They might have played better without him. Is it Jalen Green or is it Jabari Smith? Who is going to be their Luka or who is going to be their Dirk? Who is out of these three guys? Who could be the guy that then shines as their number one?
What if they're?
Or are they all number two?
Yeah. What if they're like the Celtics, where you have a bunch of guys that all work well together? Or maybe they don't work well together.
I think that's a great point because I was going to ask, what if they're all Nash and Finley? And I know people will be like, oh, Nash won 2 MVPs. Like, I hear you. He's a great player, but he was never, like, at least for the Mavericks, he was not the lead dog.
Right.
And so that's what I wonder is, do they have 3 players that are all, I'm a second, I'm a second, I'm a second?
Good question.
Which that can get you plenty far.
They are an intriguing team in the Western Conference. I don't think they can compete to make it to, let's say, the Western Conference Finals, but I think they could be a team where you get to 50 games in the season and they're 30-20.
Yeah.
And you're just like, dang, like Houston's now taking a jump into a possible like 6 seed, and they just missed the playoffs last year.